This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Monday, January 4th, 2021. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, a newly released phone call with the president and Georgia's Secretary of State. Why the president is now being accused of trying to reverse that state's election results. The spotlight also stays on Georgia. See how religious leaders are making sure Christians vote in the state's pivotal election. 2 churches fined for holding Christmas Eve services, how they are responding to the worship penalty, and how military chaplains are responding to the need for Christ during this unprecedented time. All those stories and more are ahead in today's edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to begin with a newly released audio recording first obtained by the Washington Post. President Donald Trump can be heard suggesting election officials in Georgia find more votes and overturn his election loss in the state.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
President Trump was speaking to Georgia's Republican Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to recalculate the vote. The call raises questions about whether the president violated election laws. It also comes as 140 House Republicans and at least a dozen senators plan to object to the Electoral College results in Congress Wednesday. We are down to the final hours before the much-anticipated runoff election in Georgia. More than 3 million people have voted early there, and that is not counting absentee ballots now. Now the final push to get people to the polls tomorrow, including Christians. CBN's Eric Phillips is on the ground in Georgia and files this report.
Over the weekend, scores gathered at the Georgia State House for a march and to pray that biblical values be exalted during the Senate runoff elections. Organizers encouraged attendees to fast through tomorrow night when the polls close and to do what they can to help voters understand biblical principles. Hundreds hit the streets of downtown Atlanta. Organizers making sure people understood this was not a concert or a convention, but a prayer meeting.
And we believe in miracles. We believe he parted the Red Seas. We believe that the walls of Jericho fell because the believers got together. We took a stand. We prayed. We fasted. We repented. We have to do that again as a country or we're lost.
And we're declaring that this state belongs to the Lord. We have a biblical foundation, and only those with biblical values or the closest to biblical values should be in office.
Though no specific candidates were named, evangelicals widely support Republicans, championing causes such as the life issue and Israeli sovereignty.
So I've not heard an evangelical utter the words Black Lives Matter.
Jamal Bryant, pastor of megachurch New Birth in Metro Atlanta, shares a different biblical view of the runoff.
I think it's very scriptural, and it calls us into accountability of a small line in sacred text that we often jump over. Have you considered the poor? And that this election is about health care. It's about employment opportunities. It's about safeguarding higher education and student loan debt.
Meanwhile, candidates made the cable news rounds over the weekend, making their final pitches.
I am feeling very encouraged by what's happening here on the ground in Georgia. We've had over 3 million people to vote already during the early period, and it is because they understand how much is at stake.
I believe that we'll win on Tuesday because of the grassroots momentum, the unprecedented movement energy in Georgia right now.
Raphael Warnock is my opponent. He is someone that would fundamentally change this country. His values are out of step with Georgia.
Look, I don't think I should be in this runoff if everything had happened the way it should have in November. But the only recourse we have is to get out and fight and rise up and vote on January the 5th.
Both President Trump and President-elect Biden will be in Georgia today to rally the electorate to show up at the polls tomorrow. Everyone understanding that with the margin so thin, every vote counts. In Cobb County, Georgia, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Sunday marked 1 year since the killing of General Qassem Soleimani. Iran's leaders are now vowing revenge. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, this comes as the country approaches a critical stage in enriching uranium.
January 3rd, 2020, a drone over the skies of Baghdad kills the leader of Iran's Revolutionary Guard. As the anniversary neared, President Hassan Rouhani told his cabinet and the world the killing would not go without retaliation.
The martyrdom of our great general in a brutal assassination by American officials, mainly the President of the United States and his Secretary of State, these two are among the main culprits of this crime. Of course, others had a role too, and our nation will not leave them alone.
Other Iranian officials at a ceremony for Soleimani pointed specifically at U.S. troops in the region.
Today, we have no problem, concern, or apprehension in encountering any powers. We will give our final words to our enemies in the battlefield.
Over the weekend, Israel delivered the U.S. Army a second Iron Dome anti-missile battery. In a show of force, American B-52 bombers flew over the Persian Gulf to deter any potential attacks. And the Times of Israel is reporting the IDF is preparing for any potential strike by Iranian-backed militias in Yemen or Iraq. On the nuclear front, Iran also informed the UN it would begin enriching uranium to 20% at its Fordo facility. That puts Iran one step away from creating weapons-grade uranium.
We're like soldiers and our fingers are on the triggers. The commander should command and we shoot. We're ready for this and will produce enriched uranium as soon as possible.
A decade ago, Iran's decision to pursue that percentage of enrichment nearly provoked an Israeli strike on its nuclear facilities. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
The death toll from the coronavirus has reached a painful milestone. So far, more than 350,000 people have died from the virus in the United States. The country has ramped up vaccinations in the past few days. Government health officials say about 4 million vaccinations have been dispensed. President-elect Joe Biden pledges to administer 100 million shots of the vaccine within the first 100 days in office. Dr. Anthony Fauci says the goal is achievable. In this new year, 2 churches in New Mexico are facing steep fines for holding worship services Christmas Eve. Gatherings there, Governor deemed, quote, illegal and selfish. The places of worship showed hundreds of congregants gathered together. Here to discuss the high price for worship is Dan Andros of FaithWire.com. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. So, Governor Michelle Grisham made the decision to limit church gatherings in some places, but not the entire state. Why were these churches in Albuquerque singled out?
Yeah, well, the unilateral decision was made by the governor back on December 15th, Ephraim, to limit church gatherings. This is just ahead, of course, Christmas Eve service, and Christmas service is obviously one of the biggest days for churches in all the year. And so that decision was made just days ahead of Christmas. And then Legacy Church and Calvary Church in Albuquerque both went viral when people started sharing their videos of their services, which showed highly attended services, a lot of people not wearing masks. And so that caught the attention of the governor. And then the governor condemned the churches as, quote unquote, pro-virus and rebuked them for attending, quote, selfish and illegal faith-based gatherings. So she said, we wish the pandemic were over, but it's not. And no pro-virus pastor may deem it so. So the videos went viral, caught the attention of the governor, and she came down on him hard.
Wow. Now, the fine is $10,000 each. Do the worship leaders intend to pay this?
They didn't directly say they wouldn't, but both churches released statements about the decision to be fined. Legacy Church said that they were actually calling their service a peaceful protest in hopes that would fall under, some protections there, and that the governor had recently talked about some other protests. And so they were hoping to get under that umbrella. And Calvary Christian Church said that the strong showing in attendance on Christmas Eve services indicates that people have the right to corporate worship, and they called it essential. So they both indicated that they don't agree with this decision, obviously, although they haven't said that they will directly fight it. They do have a chance to request hearings to contest the fines, but that hasn't been done yet.
You mentioned protests real quick. Is the governor's tune any different from that of the Black Lives Matter protest that the state saw over the summer?
Yeah, it is. She actually said that she admitted that the Black Lives Matter protests were a, quote, violation of the mass gatherings, no doubt, but we're just going to take a leap of faith in protecting protesters who have no other way, quite frankly, to protest, to have their voices heard. So, yeah, definitely was singing a different tune earlier this summer during those protests.
All right, Dan Andrews, thank you so much. I want to remind you at home that you can catch Faith Wire right here on the CBN News Channel this evening at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Coming up, general differences leading to a desire for socialism. Hear the warning for a younger generation. We've got that story for you coming up next.
Yeah, buddy.
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts, in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com to get your copy today.
Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. Surveys show young people in the United States want to live in a socialist country. But history shows the utter economic destruction and total government control of socialism. Paul Strand introduces us to one man who grew up under such tyranny, and he has a dire warning for the younger generation.
Georgian Banov leads worship across the world. Not only does he love rocking out for God, he's also a classical violinist. While Georgian rejoices in his freedom as a Christian, he still mourns over those who suffered for decades in his childhood home of Bulgaria, trapped behind the Iron Curtain.
They immediately went after killing every capitalist because according to Karl Marx, capitalism is the main evil. They made them dig the ditch, they throw them in the ditch, they put fire on them, oil, and burn them.
We stand here at the Victims of Communism Memorial, dedicated to the more than 100 million people killed by the communists. It's important to remember that system and socialism are inextricably linked. After all, the communist USSR
was the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, a system controlling everything that levels its citizens out by crushing individual incentive.
Everybody makes the same amount of money. So if you're good at certain and work hard, you don't get a dime more than the guy that sit and do nothing. So the productivity goes low and low and low. This is very destructive to successful economy.
Georgian points out how shortages inevitably follow.
There's nothing to buy because everything is so depleted. The only thing you could buy every day is bread.
Georgian remembers being one of the 5 families packed into a 5-room home. And he remembers the constant fear.
Now everybody's poor, and unless you're saying things that are in line 100% with the communist propaganda and doctrine, you get pulled out and eventually you disappear.
And in the schools, your life, profession, and even your beliefs were all dictated to you.
You are directly controlled by a supervisor who is over the teachers, so making sure everything you say supports the communists.
Georgian points out it's not just about economics, but snuffing out God. He explains Karl Marx, the man behind socialism and communism, despised God and wrote these words.
God, I hate you, and I'll hurt you by destroying the people you create for your glory. So the whole system is actually an antichrist system. They became the God. Praise us. Glorify the communists. So it was religion.
Georgian saw how Bulgaria clamped down on Christians with an iron fist, and especially targeted Spirit-filled believers.
They had power. Now the Holy Spirit gives you power. So the Holy Spirit people were the most persecuted because they're the most unsubmissible. They didn't give their membership. They meet in secret only, underground. Bibles were confiscated, and every Bible press was destroyed.
For those who think America can have a softer, kinder socialism, Georgian wishes they could understand for this system to succeed, it has to take total control. And that means taking away freedoms. He contrasts that to the God who gives us freedom, gifts, and power to lovingly care for all.
You don't need to empower the government to fix your problems. We, the people, are well able to fix our problems. So instead of falling for what the communists will do for you, ask what God will do for you with the gift He's given you.
It was Georgian's gift of music that got him into trouble with the communists.
We were the first rock band ever to come on national television. We weren't even that good, but there was no bands to compare.
These rockers would drive their Bulgarian audiences wild and eventually catch the communist watchful eye.
Young people standing and clapping, to them is like revolution. They say, no clapping during songs.
And finally, the communists shut down the rock and roll in the middle of a big concert.
Unplugged all our guitars and instruments. You're going home, no more rock and roll. This is out of control. That pushed me to want to get out of there, and I said, that's it. I can't handle this. Eventually, I got escaped through Iron Curtain and made it to the free country, yay!
And here in America, he met the Jesus people who led him to a personal encounter with God.
That's the first time I felt freedom that I longed for on the inside.
A freedom Georgian wants people to know they'll never find under socialism, and the control it will clamp on them. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the Victims of Communism Memorial, Washington.
Still ahead, spiritual fitness. It's a battle against an unseen enemy. Just ahead, the critical role military chaplains play as the pandemic rages on. Stay with us.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
In the days of this pandemic, military members on the front lines have a need to find a place to turn. Eric Phillips looks at the role now of military chaplains during these unprecedented times.
Major General Thomas Soljam tells me spiritual fitness is a major pillar of military readiness. And he says during this challenging time, the 2,800 chaplains in his department are working overtime.
When you put on the uniform in service to your country, Eric, and you're asked to possibly lay down your life in rendering service to your country, we have a moral obligation to fulfill, to care for the soul of that soldier.
And Major General Soljam tells me that obligation to the soldier is more important than ever right now.
So you might have a death of a family member, for example, and you can't go to the funeral, or you have parents that are aged and shut in and you can't get there. Now, we have seen a reporting from our chaplains out in the field that there's been a real increase in a number of different areas for soldiers and their families reaching out to them for assistance, for spiritual direction, guidance, and for religious care as well for those things.
The same types of sacrifice civilians face, coupled with the added responsibility of service.
So, as with any worship, worship is centered around the light of Christ. And so we very much intentionally are lighting this light of Christ.
To meet the need, chaplains have increased the hosting of live services.
It's really a new phenomenon, and I'm really pleased to see how our people have stepped up to embrace the virtual environment in order to really continue to help people to stay connected.
And today's thought is on the importance of small things.
It means chaplains of all faiths across all military branches, not just ministering to troops and their families, but to all who tune in.
So it's really taught us, I think, to raise the quality of our speaking, of what we offer people in a worship service or setting.
And they're getting creative, like with the drive-in Easter service at this installation in Japan, or this Navy virtual service in Pensacola, Florida.
They've been even doing things like Zoom potlucks, right? So chapel groups or religious groups, doing virtual potlucks, just wanting to maintain fellowship, because that's a very important connection. So I see it in all of the struggle that people are facing. It's a tremendous opportunity for people to be touched in their lives spiritually that in many ways life as normal may not have produced.
Soljam says another positive of this challenging time is those in his department learning of one another's faith in a deeper way. And he says no matter how many chaplains he has, there's always room for one more. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Coming up, an officer called to a crime scene acts out of the goodness of his heart. Just ahead, the Christmas wish the officer granted. Stay with us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5.
Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
A Massachusetts police officer is receiving high praise after buying a Christmas dinner for two women caught shoplifting groceries with their young children. Somerset police officer Matthew Lima received a call from a grocery store 5 days before Christmas. Employees say the women were stealing food. The officer told his local news outlet he noticed the stolen goods were all food items. He believed the women were shoplifting out of necessity.
Stated that obviously it goes without saying that times are tough right now for a lot of people. That she was working, but not enough and didn't make enough money. And that there were some other family issues going on and that she just wanted to provide a Christmas dinner for the kids.
That officer then purchased gift cards so the women could buy Christmas dinner for their daughters. Time now for your Monday motivation. I want to leave you with this thought as we begin a new year. Live a life of purpose and dream again. God stands ready to work with you, in you, and through you. This is the time to dream again. Then put your hands to the plow and begin the work to make those dreams come true. With that word, I encourage you to make this a marvelous Monday, a wonderful week, and a phenomenal year. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. I want to remind you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right back here next time. Again, make it a marvelous Monday. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow.